All right, welcome back. Hope everyone's doing well. It's always a little unsettling just to sit in these rock slides on the side of the mountain, knowing that the cougars are running around and looking for an easy meal. And yeah, this is a pinch point, and it would certainly be a good ambush spot for a mountain lion. So let's hope for the best here. Actually, that reminds me, a friend of mine 2 nights ago harvested a buck, and right at the end of the day, and they were quartering it up and packing it out. And in the dark, a cougar came at them, and it was harassing them, and I guess going after their meat, and it wouldn't go away. They were yelling at it and throwing stuff at it, and yeah, it wasn't giving up. So, it's a real thing. There's definitely there's cougars running these mountains quite a bit, and especially as we get later into the season and the deer numbers start to get higher and more concentrated in certain areas like wintering zones. Yeah, those cougars and definitely wolves, yeah, really start to show up in higher numbers. So anyways, just something to be aware of when you're out in the mountains in the fall. um, Other than that, I had a pretty awesome day. I picked a couple of these pine mushrooms, so I just actually thawed out some bear meat last night, so I'm gonna have some bear meat and some pine mushrooms for dinner. And then I couldn't believe this, but I just found a fresh brown 2 point deer shed right in the middle of my zone, which was surprising to begin with because I shed hunt in this area quite a bit, and I was surprised that I would have missed this just sitting out in the open like that. And there's no chew marks on it, which is surprising because if it was easy to see, you'd think the squirrels would be after it. But the other weird thing was it was sitting on top of a pile of really fresh deer droppings. And yeah, I don't know. I've seen trail camera footage online of elk and deer walking around with antlers in their mouth, and I don't know if they're chewing on them like the way the rodents chew on them. Maybe they just like the way they taste. But after I picked it up out of the droppings, I kind of thought about that. I'm like, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe one of those deer picked it up out of a bush where I couldn't find a shed hunting and carried it over and just dropped it recently on top of that pile of droppings. So, anyways, I'll take it. Um, but yeah, the most, I guess, to the point was I passed on another buck just now. I was coming into the zone that I've been working on for a couple of years, and I figured out the wind, I figured out the approach, the best way to get in, and yeah, I was just the problem is it's a bedding area, and right when you get to the beds, it just gets real thick and nasty, and I just can't find a good way, or I haven't yet, to really I can do like 90% of the approach quietly and with the wind in my favor, but then that last like the 10-yard line, like where I would just pop through and I would be able to see those deer sitting in the beds. It gets so thick and just dead sticks everywhere. And yeah, I don't know, man. I think I just blow them out every time. And I know I've blown them out a couple times because I have a couple trail cameras in there, and you can see them. You can see on the date and the timestamp. It's so embarrassing. You see the deer bedded, and then all of a sudden you see them get up, look over in my direction, and then they just bolt, right? And I did see a nice 3 point bolt out of there one time on camera, which bummed me out because then 15 minutes later you just see me come creeping into the area. So I know I'm blowing them out. But today, I don't know, I did the exact same approach I always do, but I must have just did a better job of still hunting because I remember at the time not really making any loud noises. I didn't step on any sticks. I didn't kick any rocks. I didn't, sometimes you just get snagged on branches and stuff and it makes noises. I didn't do any of that, and I was getting real close to the bedding areas. And I was like, holy smokes, Ryan, you're going to get in here and actually have a shot at seeing deer before they see you, hopefully. And I was coming up over this little knob, and there was a big tree in the middle, and I was like purposely trying to stay behind that tree. So I was like, my silhouette kind of rose up over the horizon that I'd be behind this tree and still hidden. And yeah, as soon as I kind of got about waist high, I looked beside the tree and there was a deer standing right there. I just saw the body, so I was like, oh. And I pulled back behind the tree and I took my rifle off, took the scope cap off, and I kind of leaned around the corner with the rifle just to be ready. And sure enough, there's this 2 point buck just standing there like 30 yards broadside. And he was probably pretty much the exact same as the buck I harvested last week. Definitely same age category. Everything was really similar. And I was like, why can't you just be a bigger deer? So, I watched him for a while, and I didn't get a video of him just because I wanted to be ready in case there was another buck in there. But he got tired of me and he just sort of meandered up and over the top. But then his three does walked up and they stood there and they weren't nearly as afraid of me as he was, or bothered anyways. And they were looking at me and checking me out, and I got it all on video, so you see that. And yeah, I stood there for quite a while, and I was just the wind was so perfect. I was just dying to just see if there was a bigger buck below them because they were looking below them off and on. So I was like, man, please tell me there's a bigger buck. And then once they start to meander up, maybe he'll follow. And if he followed, it was a done deal. Like I was in such a good position, and he would have just walked right by me broadside, and that would have been it. Would have been over. But nothing ever followed those does. I stood there even after they went out of sight for almost an hour, and just I got nowhere to be except to try and find a big buck. So I figured that was as good a chance as any to just hang out and just give them a chance, or maybe there's a buck, just following their trail from further back. And I just didn't want to rush out of there because it all felt so good. But I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get the 2-point on video. But sure enough, I thought he was never coming back. But then I saw him circle around out in the distance. I could just see him off between the trees, and he's looking back down at me and the does. And I did get a video, but with the cell phone, it's pretty grainy when you zoom in like that far away. But eventually he made his way closer, so I did get a better shot of him. But you can see him looking down at me, and his neck was swollen quite a bit for a 2-point. Like he was definitely rutting. And again, I was just like, man, I wish like you had a big brother with you somewhere. And that's why I stood there so long, just to see if I could see a bigger buck. But didn't see that, and they all eventually just went on their way. And again, I don't want to bump them and scare them, because I'm for sure going to come back later. And you just got to keep trying, man. Like you find some does in a few different spots, and I think that's the best you can really do during the rut is just go into your zones that there's does. And from what I understand is one day there's just going to be a big hammer buck standing there looking at you, hanging out with those does. So that's my plan. Just keep rotating and hitting zones where I know deer do hang out. And even if I don't see anything, I got trail cameras set up, so it's always fun to go check the trail cameras and see who's home and if there's any activity. And yeah, we're down to like the last 2 weeks of hunting season here, just under. And I'm hopeful maybe this something will drive some of these bucks down. I bet you the bigger bucks are probably still higher up in the Alpine. We had a lot of snow, but it sort of melted away, and it's just been a lot of rain. And that would explain why, that 2-point, I got him on both my trail cameras a whole bunch of times for the last week, and he's the only buck running around in that spot. So, that kind of tells you that maybe, you'd think by now into the rut, if there were bigger bucks running around here right now, that they would be in there with those three does. And if they're not, then I guess maybe they're just not in the zone yet and they haven't come down. But I'll throw the trail camera videos are pretty good at that 2-point, so I'll put those in this video at the end as well. So yeah, that's all I have for an update, and pretty cool experience today. Again, that's 2 bucks that I've let walk this season, 2 more than I've ever let walk in my whole life. And it's kind of cool actually. Having those deer in the freezer takes the pressure off, and if you're really committed to wanting to harvesting a mature buck, then you just got to do it. You can't say it and then shoot a 2-point. There's 2 weeks left in the season, right? So just gonna keep on keeping on. And obviously if I have any more encounters or eventually get something that I'm after, I will you guys will be the first to know. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day. just funny how that works. I just had that encounter with those deer further up the hill, and I'm dropping down before I leave the area to check another trail camera. And I shed hunted this place a lot. I mean, a lot. I figured I picked up everything. And then I was even in here this spring a bunch of times, and I didn't find anything. So I figured maybe not many deer wintered in this area, and that was that. But yeah, I'm just walking down to my trail camera, and right in the middle, right out in the open, is a brown 2-point from this past winter. It's crazy. Like, you cannot pick them all up. I don't care who you are. It's a needle in a haystack, but man, it's super fun to try. And it's fun when you trip over them just when you least expect it. So I'll turn it around and show you guys. So this goes to show just how hard it is to see a shed, how camouflage they can be. So I was just walking right through the middle here. It's not even like a sneaky spot. And as soon as I come around this tree, I'm like, oh, there's a shed. It's just your line of sight gets blocked, and it's definitely a brown. It's in pretty good condition too. Not too bleached, no chews. Nice. All right, one more quick update. So I hunted all day yesterday in the rain. Didn't see any deer at all until towards the end. I was walking down and going under some cliffs, and I looked up, and again, like 40 yards away in the rain, there's this little spike buck bedded down just looking at me off the top of the cliff. And I hung out with him for a little bit just to see if maybe there was a bigger deer bedded up in there with him that might pop his head over the edge to have a look. And there wasn't, but he ended up standing up after a little bit and walking off. So that was cool. And then today I hunted all morning, and I was creeping into a spot, and I was kind of up on these cliffy bluffs looking down to just see if I could see any deer running around below me or maybe bedded somewhere I could spot them. And I was standing there for like a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden to my left I see something move, and it was a deer flicking his ear. So I looked to my left, and about 40 yards away, like on the same ridge as me under a tree, there's a spike buck just bedded down, facing completely away from me. And that's the only reason he didn't see me creep up behind him. And then it was interesting. I was like totally just caught out in the open. I couldn't do anything. And it was just interesting. I had the opportunity, just because it was a spike, and I mean, I wasn't going to take it, but just to see what I could get away with in that situation, being that close to a deer that didn't know I was there. Because, you know, that situation could happen again with a bigger buck. And it'd just be good to, you know, have tried to see what I could get away with, so I don't make any mistakes in the next situation. But yeah, apparently deer have a 270-degree field of view, so they can see behind them pretty good. And it's true, like, I wasn't making any quick movements, but I was making very slow movements, like, you know, just maybe reaching for my cell phone in my pocket at like a snail's pace. But that was enough to trigger him to like look over his shoulder, not right at me, but it's almost like he could pick something up in those peripherals. Very slow movement. And he would sit there with his neck cranked over his shoulder for maybe like a minute or two. And then once he was satisfied, he'd straighten his head out again. So he was completely looking away from me. And then I could go for my phone or go for my binoculars. So that was kind of neat. And then we went back and forth like that for like 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he stood up. I'm like, oh, I'm busted. Turned around, looked right at me. I mean, I couldn't stay any stiller than I was, you know, probably swaying a little bit, but that was enough to get his attention. And then, yeah, he just bedded right back down, staring right at me. Like, he wasn't afraid of me at all. So then, at that point, I just took a couple more videos and hung out with him for another 10 minutes. And, yeah, he eventually got up and just walked off, which was all for the best, because I wanted to hunt past him, so last thing I needed was to scare him, and then he starts blowing and stomping his feet and then goes running off and scares all the other deer beyond him. But no, it was perfect. He just got up and he was fine, and he didn't look scared or panicked or stressed, and he just meandered away, and that was that. But I hiked into that zone, and I never saw any other deer, so it was all for naught. But super cool experience again. Like, this year has been great. I've been getting close to deer a bunch of times, and it's neat just to interact with them and see their behaviors, and see how they react to different situations. And yeah, pretty cool overall. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.